I want to talk about something a little more personal today. I'm Jonathan Burton, and this Saturday is the 4th of July, the 250th anniversary of the birth of this nation, a quarter of a millennium. And I have to be honest, everything going on in our country right now because of this president's cruelty, his corruption, and incompetence has pretty much ruined the celebration for me. I feel more like mourning America's death than celebrating her birth. I was alive for the bicentennial, the 200th, back in 1976. I was a junior in high school, old enough to know exactly what was going on. And I remember that 4th of July. It was amazing. Everybody was so excited. I was excited. I was 17 years old, I think. And to be around for America's 200th birthday, to me at that time, was amazing. The tall ships, the fireworks, the red, white, and blue on everything, it meant something. I Back then I never thought much about whether I'd be here for the 250th. Uh, I did think about whether I'd be here for the 300th and realized I wouldn't. So, but I didn't think about 250th. But turns out I'm here, and I've one thing I've learned: if you're around for something and then you're around for that same thing 50 years later, it's mostly just a testament to how old you're getting. But I can't summon the same excitement this time that I had back then. I'm just not feeling it, and I felt a little bad, like maybe something's wrong with me, or maybe I'm not patriotic enough. But I've tried to think it through, and the conclusion I keep coming back to is this: it just honestly feels like a foreign enemy has taken over our government. That's what it feels like. And just ask yourself, if you don't understand what I'm saying, if a hostile foreign power actually controlled the White House, what would they do differently? What more could they possibly do to tear this nation down than what this administration is doing? And I think about the contrast between now and 1976. We had just come through Watergate. Nixon had resigned less than 2 years earlier. We were all stunned at what a corrupt president he was. I mean, stunned, shocked. Today, we have a president 20 times more corrupt, and nobody's shocked. We're unfazed by it. But back then, we were shocked. And that's part of what made it feel like things were going to be okay. I mean, nobody felt like the whole country was in danger at that time. There was a bad man in the White House. We rooted him out, and we returned to what we were. The system worked. But that's not where we are today. Today, it feels like the nation itself is under a deep threat, and there's no clear path out of it. There's no group of responsible leaders coming to pull us out of the ditch, not even the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is half of what has pushed us into the ditch. When Nixon was president, the Supreme Courts could still be counted on, though. They ruled 8-0 that he had to hand over the tapes. And he did. He did hand them over after their ruling. He followed the Supreme Court ruling. But today, we can't even count on them making a decent ruling anymore, much less the president actually following it if he doesn't want to. Here's the part that grieves me, though, as a lifelong Republican, well, former lifelong Republican. Well, okay, former Republican. I'm no longer going to be a lifelong Republican, obviously. But the Republicans in Congress back then supported Nixon almost to the very end, like they're doing today. But at the end, they finally stood up, and Barry Goldwater himself, of all people, I mean, he would have been mega MAGA back then. But he walked into the White House and told Nixon it was over. Back then, there were more than a handful of courageous Republicans willing to stand against a would-be dictator, even at real political cost. But where are those Republicans today? Okay, there have been a few, a precious few. Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, they told the truth about January 6th, and it ended their careers. Think about that. Just think about that. They told the truth about an insurrection attempt led by the President of the United States, and it ended their careers. What kind of country are we in now? How can we celebrate that? I can't get into the spirit. More recently, 4 House Republicans, they actually call themselves the Bravehearts: Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert, of all people. They defied Trump and forced the release of the Epstein files, and every one of them still had something to lose at the time. Trump branded Marjorie Taylor Greene traitor, and she had to resign from Congress. Massey lost the most expensive House primary in American history to a Trump-backed challenger. Mace's run for governor collapsed after her Epstein stand cost her Trump's endorsement. And Boebert is next on the list. We'll see what he does about that. But 3 out of 4 so far are politically executed. And that's the difference between 1974 and now. Back then, standing up to a corrupt president earned you the respect of the nation. Today, it's a career death sentence. And the rest of the party has learned the lesson. So the only other ones speaking up now are the ones with 6 months left in office and nothing left to lose. And I'm sorry, but finding your courage after your career is already over, that ain't courage. The brave ones have been purged, and everyone left standing got the message. So let me get specific, because I don't want anyone saying I'm just being dramatic here. Let's look at corruption. Let's start with the pardons, because this is just a shining light into the real heart of this presidency. You talk about law and order, you Republicans, we stand for law and order. Take the immigrants out of here. They're all illegal. They've all committed crimes. Get them out. We're for law and order. Really? Check this out. Because this president has turned the pardon power into a clearance sale. Day one, he pardoned roughly 1,500 January 6th defendants, people who beat police officers while trying to overthrow an election. And we just stand by, oh, it was nothing, no big deal. He commuted the sentences of the seditious conspiracy ringleaders. He pardoned Ross Ulbricht, the Silk Road drug kingpin, serving life in prison. He got a life sentence because what he did was so serious. He's serving life in prison for a dark web empire that moved over $200 million in illegal drugs that killed some of the people who bought them. And you know, the president now, you got to love this. The president now justifies the murders of people in speedboats off the coast of Venezuela by saying they're going to bring in drugs that will kill Americans. And yet a man convicted of doing exactly that, facilitating the sale of drugs that did kill Americans, Trump pardoned him. What's up with that? Why can't anyone explain that? And why aren't MAGA people upset about this? You cheer that he's killing people in speedboats because he claims with no evidence that they're bringing drugs in that will kill people. And you don't want drugs coming in that kill people, but he pardons a man who sold $200 million worth of drugs that killed people. And you just sit back and go, it's nothing. I see nothing. I see nothing. Amazing. He commuted the federal sentence of Larry Hoover, the founder of Gangster Disciples. He pardoned a police officer who had been convicted of second-degree murder. He pardoned Jiangping Zhou, the crypto billionaire who went to prison because his platform let terrorists and predators move money. Right after Zhou's company propped up the Trump family's own crypto operation with a $2 billion deal. So he does a $2 billion deal with the Trump family, and suddenly he gets a pardon. He pardoned white-collar fraudsters like Nikola founder Trevor Milton, who cheated investors out of hundreds of millions of dollars after Milton's family donated nearly $2 million to Trump's campaign. Add it all up, and his pardons have wiped out nearly $2 billion in court-ordered restitution that convicted criminals owed to their victims. Money those victims will now never see. So much for being for the victims. Lobbyists in Washington openly charge $1 million now or more to get your name on the pardon list. The Trump family pulled in over $1 billion from crypto in his first year back in office, while foreign money flowed into his coins, his crypto coins. And what do you know? Investigations into the buyers kept disappearing. And meanwhile, his own Justice Department settled a lawsuit Trump filed against the very U.S. government that he heads, promising the IRS will never audit him or his family again, and creating a $1.8 billion taxpayer-funded slush fund for his allies. This isn't pardon power. This isn't the pardon power the founders put in the Constitution. This is a racket. Let's look at lawlessness. Federal judges have been documenting ICE defying the courts. He's all for law and order. How does he obey the law? One judge counted 96 violations of court orders from the Trump administration in 74 cases in a single month and said it should give pause to anyone who cares about the rule of law, no matter their politics. This administration deported a man to one country a court had explicitly ordered them not to send him to, El Salvador, uh, admitted in open court that it was illegal, and then the administration spent the next year trying to punish Albrego Garcia for winning that case. Wow. Law and order, right? Law and order. They've deported people while restraining orders were literally in effect. That's not law enforcement. That's lawlessness wearing a badge. Let's look at cruelty. A member of Congress toured an ICE facility in Minneapolis and found people locked in cells, in leg shackles, no beds, no blankets, minimal food, freezing temperatures, no medical care on site. They're arresting people who follow the law by showing up for their immigration check-ins. The law says show up for this court date. They show up. They follow the law, and you call them illegal immigrants. You say they're here illegally. They're not here illegally if they have a court date and they show up for it. They're punishing people for following the law. They're shipping human beings off to countries like Equatorial Guinea or Eswatini, places you've never heard of, and places you can't pronounce, places they've never set foot in, knowing full well they may be handed right back to the persecutors our own immigration judges wanted to protect them from. One legal expert called it exactly what it is, a system designed to outsource cruelty. And while all that's happening, they're dismantling our military from the inside out. Did you hear about the General Secretary Hegseth just forced out? General Chris Donahue, one of the most respected military men in our history. You may not know the name, but you've seen the picture. He was the last American soldier to walk up the ramp out of Afghanistan in 2021. And for that, Hegseth demoted him. That famous night vision image, final man out, West Point graduate, commander of U.S. Army forces in Europe and Africa, widely expected to be the next chief of staff of the Army, one of the most respected military men in our history. And Hegseth, who's not even qualified to tie his shoes, offered him a demotion from 4 stars down to 3. He resigned instead. And Donahue is just the latest. Back in April, Hegseth fired the Army Chief of Staff, General Randy George, in the middle of the Iran war, reportedly because George refused to strip 4 fully qualified colonels off a promotion list, 2 black men and 2 women, already vetted and approved by the Army's own board. He fired the chief of chaplains. He fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. More than 20 generals and admirals purged. 5 former defense secretaries, including Trump's own first one, General Mattis, called the firings reckless and begged Congress to hold hearings. Congress did nothing. These are the same people who say we had a great military and all the people in the military are awesome. Then they go in there and start these purges to get rid of people who they don't think are completely 1,000% loyal to Trump over the Constitution. They want people who will violate the Constitution in order to obey Trump. That's why those people were fired. And it's not just the Pentagon. They've taken a wrecking ball through department after department and driven out thousands of good, experienced people, career professionals who served under presidents of both parties. Here's what people need to understand. You can fire a 30-year expert in an afternoon, but you can't rebuild 30 years of expertise and institutional memory in an afternoon. You can't do that. Or even in one term, some of this damage will take a generation to repair, if it can be repaired at all. So no, I can't celebrate this Saturday. I'm not feeling it. And I feel somewhat unpatriotic for saying it. But the truth is, I can't celebrate. And the reason I can't celebrate is because I am patriotic. I love our country and I love what it stands for and what it's supposed to be. But I'm mourning because I love our country, but the people in Washington are doing everything in their power to dismantle it. How could any patriot be celebrating that? That's why I don't feel like celebrating this year. I really don't. But I'm praying because mourning, you know, you know, hanging your head in sadness and mourning without prayer is just despair. And despair isn't an option for Christians. We don't have despair, we have hope. The prophet Jeremiah sat in the ashes of a destroyed Jerusalem and still wrote this. He wrote, "The faithful love of the Lord never ends, his mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning. I say to myself, the Lord is my inheritance. Therefore, I will hope in him." Our hope is in the Lord. So let's put our hope where it belongs and pray for our nation, mourn and grieve what's being done to this country, then pray, and then get up and keep telling the truth. Keep exposing the dark deeds of these people to their supporters and continue to pray for them, for our country, and the supporters of all of this. Let's pray for all of them. That's what I intend to do. All right. Okay. That's it for me. I'm Jonathan Burton, and I'll see you soon. Take care.